We've been doing it for about 9 months now. We recently crossed six figures, which is very exciting. We've been using it for 2-3 months, and it's been the best thing that we've ever done. Initially, actually, we spoke to someone who built a very large agency very quickly as well, where this guy essentially told us, just you can do things in 2 weeks that you would never believe you could do.
We are here today with Eyal from You Found AI. First of all, how you doing today, Eyal?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Good.
Really happy to be
Thank
here.
you for coming on. Really appreciate it. I'm sure you're super busy with everything you got going at You Found and other stuff. So instead of me introducing you, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you have going on at You Found and what you're kind of doing day to day?
Yeah. Yeah. My name's Eyal. I run You Found AI with two other people. It's a voice AI company where obviously we build voice AI assistants for usually local businesses. We've been doing it for about 9 months now. We recently crossed six figures, which is very exciting. So obviously just starting out. Been a crazy, crazy journey, but I'm happy to, come here, share, explain sort of how we've found our groove and our building from the beginning.
That's amazing. Six figures in 9 months is that's a serious accomplishment. A quick question: how much do you think your results has to do with your hard work, infrastructure, business systems versus the space you are in and the opportunity we're in with this new emergence of voice AI technology?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it definitely has to do with both. I mean, we've seen tons of success stories online, and people saying you can make this much money very quickly. I think it definitely has to do. I would say the biggest part is the team that you build. So I give all the credit to my two other partners. Obviously, in this business, building actual systems and the actual product is a huge part of it. So we have an incredible technical co-founder, my brother, who builds incredible agents.
Yeah.
And then we have also someone, Carmel, she's on the marketing side and she's been killing it on sales as well. So I think that's the first thing, is choosing like a team, people who you trust, people who you know are good. And then from there, putting in not just hard work, but places that the hard work needs to go. So should you be working hard on your copy on your website, or should you be working hard on making cold calls or cold email campaigns or working on your demo? So like, where should you be putting your hard work? And yeah, it's a great opportunity now, I think, to figure out, okay, what are my skills that I've built over the past few years? How can I find a product using AI that's, not easy to build, but something that can be built quickly, and then go from there. I think that's a huge three parts of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that I think that's a really good point that you brought up. Obviously you have to work hard, but if you're working hard on the wrong stuff, it may not be very effective. So, how do you go about determining where you should put your efforts? Is it more of a trial and error process, or do you find out from other people where you should be focusing? Where do you find that balance to determine where you should put your effort?
Yeah, I think it's again three things. I think the first thing is seeing what other people, let's say it's agency owners, we'll stick
Yeah.
with that. What have other successful agency owners done? And let me try that and listen to them, because they're obviously successful, and if they're credible, etc. And I think the other piece is also trial and error, like you mentioned. So I have these five things that I feel are going to actually make the needle move. Let me just go through them, and it's not something that you would need to do over an entire year. Like, I have these five things and I need to try them out in the year. Like, you can do things in 2 weeks that you would never believe you could do. Like, if you really put your head down and try things for 2 weeks, you can really figure out what works and what doesn't work. So I think that's a huge piece. Yeah. So I would say, yeah, I'd say that those are the two biggest things.
So I want to talk a little bit about outreach now, because obviously outreach is very important for business growth. And as you said, you've been doing this for about 9 months. So I would imagine the your ways of doing outreach at the start is different than how you do outreach now. And I'm sure that process evolved, especially being able to hit six figures. So do you want to talk a little bit about what your outreach looked like in practice when you were first starting out compared to how it looks like now?
Yeah, yeah, it's a great question. So initially, actually, we spoke to someone who built a very large agency very quickly as well. We had access to somebody through a mutual friend, so that we were very lucky to have that conversation. And it was like a 30-minute conversation, where this guy essentially told us, cold call. Just cold call. Put your head down and cold call. So we had that in our mind sort of from the beginning, which doesn't seem like most agency owners have that. Usually people think, let me do mass cold email, mass cold text message, social media posting, that sort of thing. Like, cold calling is sort of not really out there, but we were told right in the beginning. So that's what we listened to that. And we were all working full-time jobs in the beginning. So we we're all working full-time. And we decided, let's cold call people after our normal job hours. So after 5 p.m., let's just cold call people and see what happens. We didn't have a product. We didn't have anything. Like, it's not like we spent months developing a product and then we're going to sell it. We said, let's see if people want voice AI. So we started calling businesses, the business numbers on Google Maps.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually booked a meeting. Like, somebody was interested the first day, and we were like, okay, this is super interesting. And after, I think, a few weeks, we had already closed somebody, because cold calling is just so effective, and I'll definitely get more into that. We had closed someone in a few weeks, and we were like, let's just go full time into it. So that's how we started. And then from there, we were using Apollo and these sort of other tools that get most of their databases from LinkedIn. So we found that we were running out of people to call pretty quickly, which was unfortunate. Like, let's say plumbers in our area or in a few cities, we'd run out of it pretty quick. So we kind of got stuck. Then we started using some Google Map scrapers, but we realized we were getting reception a lot of the time. As time passed on, like, it was months with this, where we would, basically go through an entire database, because we're based on LinkedIn, and we ran out of numbers to call, and we were trying to figure out, scrambling, what to do. And my brother, who's the technical co-founder, he created, essentially, like, it's a Google Map scraper, but he added another aspect to it where it pulls the owner names from the businesses on Google Maps and their mobile numbers. So essentially, we just have like an infinite database of people from Google Maps and their actual mobile numbers, because they're local businesses, and they're people who are on Google Maps, but they don't have their mobile phones. So we built something that can actually pull their mobile phones, and we've been using it for 2-3 months, and it's been the best thing that we've ever done. And so we essentially are now selling it to other agency owners, allowing them to have access to this sort of database. It's called Owner Phones. And yeah, I mean, we just kind of want to push people to cold call more, because I don't think people are doing it enough. It's scary. It's, very up in the air. And I think that, it's something that all agency owners should be doing.
That's awesome. So just to make things clear, so you were dealing with the issue, you were running into cold calling problems, reaching non-decision makers and receptionists. So you guys kind of solved that problem internally,
Yeah.
creating your own system to scrape from Google Maps, but scrape the owners and their mobile, mobile phones, so you can reach those decision makers, cold call more effectively.
Mhm.
And then, as you said, you've seen it to be very effective. And then,
Yeah.
as a result, you turn this system of yours into a platform that other agencies can
Yeah.
use, and it's called Owner Phones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow,
Exactly.
I think
Exactly.
that's amazing. I'll throw that in the link in the description in case anyone wants to check it out. I think that could be really valuable, considering a lot of people are looking to start an AI agency. So I'll just do that. Now I want to talk a little bit about your offer, the same way we talked about your outreach. I'm sure your offer and the way you went about your offer evolved over time as well. So can you take me through what your offer was? What were you pitching? What was your way about going about that from the start to how you go about that now?
Yeah, I mean, the look on your face says it all. It's one of the hardest parts about business, for sure, and it took us so many months to figure out. And we're still figuring it out a little bit, but we've gotten it mostly down pat. But it was a point of frustration for a long time. We heard in the beginning, like you hear from everyone, riches are in the niches, and make sure you sell to one person, and make sure you're not selling to every niche possible. And I definitely agree with that. But we didn't do that in the beginning. So we were just selling to everybody. And the problem with that is, when you're trying to sell to everyone, it's not super attractive to anyone, essentially. So if I'm targeting one person and I'm saying, let's say plumbers, you're a plumber and I can help you solve X, Y, and Z because you have this problem, as opposed to saying business owners, you are missing leads. It's not so personalized. It's not so, like, attractive to the person on the other side. So essentially, we started selling to everyone, and then we sort of niched down to a couple niches. We were doing like therapy and home services, and now we've really niched down to like home services and trades, excuse me. And we've seen that has helped a ton with our messaging, with our brand, with our credibility with other people on demos, because we say we've worked with a business exactly like yours. We know their problems because we speak to them constantly, and we can just sort of scale because we're building out a product that's for one avatar. So that's what I would definitely look out for. It's depending, I think it depends on the agency that you want to build. If you want to be doing small projects here and there around, everywhere, niches don't matter too much. But if you're trying to build something scalable, and build a large agency where you can train people and build out your sort of client base to a massive scale, I think you're going to need to niche down.
Interesting. Yeah. When you're selling to everyone, you're selling to no one. That's
Yeah,
what they say. Yeah,
exactly.
that's interesting. And you found that once you really targeted uh, a specific avatar, let's say, you understand them better. The message gets better, and just all these factors makes it more effective.
Yeah. And I think one important piece for us is we did experiment. So like in the beginning, we were like, we're going to choose these 10 niches and we're going to like call them and pitch them and build a product for like each of them and see which one it actually works best for. And we did find that it worked. It ended up working best for home services, the product that we built, but might be different for everyone else. So I would say that exploration phase is important if you don't already know who you're going to be selling to, but don't get stuck there. Don't get stuck there. Try to figure out who's going to be, that avatar, and as quickly as possible.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah.
Now I want to talk a little bit about fulfillment because there's a lot of, I feel like this is kind of like a taboo subject there's a lot of content out there
Mhm.
on building with N8N, retail, VAPI, etc., selling, marketing, meetings. But when it comes to actual fulfillment, it's kind of, there's less content out there. So I'd be curious to know a little bit about how your fulfillment has evolved over time. What do you think about one-time handovers versus a retainer model,
Mhm.
and just what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it's definitely something that I would assume not most agency owners, but some agency owners will have a disagreement with. But I think, again, how we started out is we didn't have a product, we didn't even build something, and I would honestly weirdly recommend that to people. Like, do sales first. Stop building for like 5 months something that you're hoping will work and perfecting your craft, and then start selling it to people. Go and sell it, have a client, because if you don't have any testimonials, the client already knows that you're not amazing at what you do because you have no testimonials. So go and sell to someone based on just their trust to you. They know you're not going to be amazing, but use that as the pillar for the product that you build. So that's the first thing that kind of want to get out of the way. And then the second thing is in terms of the actual fulfillment, we 90% of the time will do the reoccurring model, because that just kind of fits our goals, I guess, for the future. Is we're trying to sort of build a client base again with one avatar that we can essentially scale over and over. And another huge thing, and I'll repeat it again, is your teammates. Who is actually building it out? I don't build them out.
Mhm.
My technical co-founder does, and he's a beast. He's an animal, and so
Yeah.
we're very, very lucky. And I think you have to have someone who, they don't need to, because he's self-taught. He's self-taught.
Yeah.
You don't need to have 10 years of experience to choose the best partner and whatever it is. You need to just find someone who either you see potential in, or you just know that they're a very hard worker and they're someone who they genuinely need to want to satisfy the client. It can't be 100% for me. I just want the money. I just want this. I just wanted that. It needs to be like, I care about this person's business as much as the business owner does. And if
Mhm.
you can find someone like that, they're going to care so much about their work and so much about bringing value to the marketplace that they're going to make sure that the product is good. Again, it's about hard work, it's about intellect for sure. But if the person cares about the product, it's going to work a lot better than someone who just cares about money. So
Mhm.
that is something huge, I think, and that's something that we've definitely learned as we've gone. But yeah, the fulfillment side is definitely has a lot of moving parts. And I think as you go, start with smaller projects, understand what works better, what doesn't, and work from there. You figure it out as you go.
That's amazing. That's really helpful because it seems like what you're kind of saying is, when you care about your customer and you care about fulfilling a product that will actually help them, putting yourself out of the picture and getting yourself into the frame of the business and helping them, then it kind of falls into place a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Got
just think there's so much out there on social media that's like just
Yeah.
about the money made from, like, you're 100% right when you say there's not so much about the fulfillment. Like there's so much about like, I closed a client for X amount of money. It's like, what happened after? Like, how was the relationship with them a year later? Do you have that client? Did they enjoy the service? Like, what's going on? Right. And I think that we need to push people more to be in the frame of care about your clients,
Yeah.
care about your clients, and especially when you're early on. Because if you care about your clients, it's as beneficial to you as it is to them, because you'll get a review that says these people are the best, they're the most trustworthy, they give the best customer support, they're incredible, you have to work with them. Versus like, yeah, they're okay. It's like you want good testimonials, and people can really sense, like humans are really good at sensing, authenticity. So I think you got to stick with that for sure.
Awesome. And now I want to transition into something um as well that people on social media don't really talk about much, and that's not really flashy, but at the end of the day, we're running businesses over here, and internal operations and organization has to be a factor, especially when it comes to scaling.
Mhm.
Nobody really talks about it. People are very quick to say, 100,000 a month this, 20,000 a day this, and they don't really talk about the actual business operations,
For
even
sure.
though we're running businesses here, and that's what's very important. So, kind of with the same theme about what we were talking about with outreach, offers, and fulfillment, how has your internal organization and infrastructure changed over time as you scale?
Yeah. Yeah. A lot. There's so many pieces to the question. I think, even a quote unquote smaller business has so many different factors about, you need to be making sure you're keeping track. And this is something that, I definitely struggle with. Like, I'm not an organized person by nature. So I really, like, my teammates have helped me a lot in terms of being like, keep track of this, keep track of that. We kind of like work with each other to make sure, are you keeping track with this? Like, where is this information? Make sure you're inputting this information. So I think having like software is super powerful. So if you have a software where you can track your leads, like a CRM, whatever it is, like make sure that that's always up to date and make it as least manual as possible. So for example, we have a dialer that we use to cold call people. We cold call. Let's say we schedule a demo. Okay. So we finish the cold call, we schedule a demo. On that dialer, we have an automation that when you press demo scheduled and you submit that call as completed, it goes automatically into the CRM. So
Wow.
we don't need to, like, that's just one small piece so you get a better idea. Is like we don't need to kind of keep track of it in our head and say, okay, I scheduled that person, let me put it now into this. Not only does it waste time, but you're also going to forget. Just as people, like, we're very forgetful. So create as many small like automations as possible to make sure that everything is sort of like flowing where it needs to go. Like when you do something manual, think, okay, can this actually be done automatically? And we use make.com for that. It's
Yeah.
just like the easiest. We use make.com. And it kind of make sure that everything's organized, and that's on the sales side. And then on the technical side, I would always say try to keep things as like lean as possible. So depending on which platform you're using to build the voice AI agents out, just make sure you're labeling everything, because everything is a search box these days. So if you label something well, you're going to be able to find it later by just searching for it. So like make sure you're not labeling something like copy two. It's like you don't know what's in there. Like label it something correct so that you actually can find it. And there's a million other things that go into the operations. Financials are a huge part.
Yeah.
One of our co-founders does the financials, and she keeps track of it all. I think that's massive. You have to know where every penny is going, or else you have no idea where you are. And then, yeah, make sure you're reinvesting. I think there's a big misconception that people are like, I made $20,000 this month
Yeah.
and that's all going into my pocket. Like it could go into your pocket, but like it shouldn't be going into your pocket. If you're trying to grow the business, like, yeah, agencies have a big profit margin, but how much of that profit are you putting back into the business? And
Yeah.
I think in the early days, it should be a lot. Like, what are the big levers that I can move? Software is a huge lever, like something like a dialer that can allow you to call 600 people in a day versus 100 people in a day. That's a massive lever, and that's a good investment to have. What's something where you can invest in, developers or that sort of thing. There's a lot of reinvesting that has to go on. So I don't know if it's the best answer to your question, but there's a lot of stuff in there.
No, I think that is valuable actually, because I think reinvestment is huge, and I think you gave a lot of value just there, indicating where to reinvest and how to reinvest. Reinvesting in software such as a dialer to make more calls, and I think that was a really good point. All right, now I want to talk a little bit more open ended. We were talking a lot about offers, outreach, and a lot of specific things, but I just want to get a little bit of, I guess, just open wisdom from Eyal, and I'll ask you first. Looking back, was there a specific shift or decision that unlocked the next level of growth for you in your business?
Yeah. The biggest lesson that we've taken, is essentially we had a period where we were cold calling a lot, and I keep going back to cold calling because it's worked so well for us.
Yeah.
Someone might be watching this, and if you don't cold call and you find that something else works, whenever I say cold calling, just put that into your mind as the thing that you do that works. Just to bear with me, I'll use cold calling because that's for us. When we were cold calling, it was working incredibly well for us. I'll give you like a timeline. So before the summer, we were cold calling a ton. We got tons of clients, and we started doing fulfillment, and we got comfortable. We were just like, we have clients now, we didn't do this consciously, but we were like, let's focus less on outreach and focus more on our clients and, our offer and making sure everything's perfect. And then, we'll figure everything out and go back to outreach. But that's not what you should be doing. Figure out what gets results and just do that more. It sounds simple, but it's super difficult because as humans, I think Warren Buffett says it, we are like machines that try to sabotage everything good because we think that we have something better. He didn't say exactly that, but you can find the quote. Essentially, he says like when you create something good, there's like a weird thing that we just try to destroy it by doing something that we think will be better, but it always ends up being worse. So like we were like, we're cold calling. Oh my God, look how well it's working. Let's focus more on the offer and the little things and our messaging. And like it didn't really matter. We just needed to do more of what worked. So after the summer, we realized we hit a block and we were like, we haven't got a client in X amount of time. What's going on? We looked back. What worked? Cold calling. Great. In a week, we set up everything that we needed to do cold calling at scale, and we tripled revenue in a month. Like it's that simple. Once you figure out what works, it's that simple. Now the hard part is figuring out what works.
Yeah.
That's the difficult part. But once you do that, just stick with that. And if you want to try something else out, I think Jeff Bezos talks about like doing what works and then figure out a way to, without lowering what works, try something else. So let's say you do tons of cold calling, but now you want to try cold emailing. Work a few extra hours at night. Don't take away from the time that you're cold calling to figure out cold email. Just work more in the evenings to figure that out. So there's that part. And I think that's the biggest piece is we lost our way because we thought we could do, we could take a break, we could take a step back. Don't do that. Once you figure out what works, just scale it and consistently do that.
Wow. Sounds simple.
Yeah.
Sounds simple and easy,
It's
but
not.
in practice, it is something that,
For
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Wow.
It's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
All right. We'll I'll hit you with the last question here,
Mhm.
and I'll keep it open. Advice for new AI agency builders.
Mhm. The biggest, I think I've mentioned the biggest pieces, but I'll sort of reiterate them quickly is team. Who's your team? Make sure you have a good team and you trust them and they actually are working hard. Make sure you all care about your clients deeply, not just about the money, because that will fade, but your client relationships are very, very important, way more important than the amount that comes through the bank. And then the third, I would also say, is figure out what the levers are. So a big one is social media, obviously, that Carmel has been building up pretty well, and it's a huge lever. And then figure out what works. For us, it's cold calling, and just do that at scale. Those are the three biggest pieces. Don't focus so much on number one, building your product out, making sure it's perfect. It's a facade. It's not real. Don't spend months being like, I need to build the best voice agent, make sure it's working perfectly, and then I'll go sell it. The truth is you're just scared to sell.
Yeah.
And that's what we figured out. That's the truth, is you're scared to sell and you wrap it in this, I need to make it perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. Go sell and then build. Because when you put it into real life, that's when you're going to know if your product is good or not when you test it at 2 a.m, making sure you're figuring out little bugs. It's not, you need to put it actually into testing. So I think that's a huge piece is, people will wrap, I'm doing work with just like trying to perfect a product that they've never implemented. Go sell. So I think the last thing is not having shiny object syndrome. Basically, we had this a lot where it's just like something looks great and you go into it and a few days, a few weeks, a few months, it gets boring and then something else comes and now I want to do that completely because there's this problem with this part of the business or this segment or this group, whatever it is. I think a huge part is to just stick with something. Just stick with something. There's problems with every niche. There's problems with every product. There's problems with every sales tactic. There's problems with everything. And if you keep moving and switching over, you're never going to gain compounding interest. And it's the most powerful economic force. And so you need to make sure that you stick with something. Do it for a year and see what happens.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good one. People need to hear that.
We learned it like so many times, and we would just forget about it, and then it would happen again, and we're like, we lost all this time and like
Yeah, it is.
process.
Well, at social media, everyone's coming at you with
Yeah,
all these new methods that make $1 million in 24 hours. So it's hard not to switch, especially when the
right.
thing that you're doing is so hard.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Everything's hard.
yeah,
Everything is hard. Everything sucks, and everything is difficult.
yeah,
That's just how it is.
yeah.
How it is.